All right. I think we'll go ahead and get started, but keep on coming in as you're coming in, and feel free to say hi to folks in the chat. And welcome to the first of two of our community check-in and updates. If we need more and this goes really well and this feeds something in people's souls, we can definitely have more. This is the start of sort of a webinar series that we're going to kick off. But if we need more of this style and type, we're very happy to do it. Clearly, I'll still be in this same room, and that'll be we can do as many of these as they need. So welcome. If you don't know me, my name is Natasha Jankowski. I am the Executive Director for the National Institute for Learning Outcomes Assessment, or NILOA, and I'm really excited that we're getting to do this today and that all of you were able to join us. So I wanted to start with just a little bit about why we're doing this and what this is about, and then how we're going to structure our time together today. And so we just sort of get all on the same page with that. So we wanted to do these webinars to really sort of serve two different purposes. One is to give people a space to just kind of process with each other. I don't know about you, but the amount of just information shoved in your face and emails, it's incredibly overwhelming. And it's a lot of pushing out and not giving space to chat. So we will definitely make sure that we have a good amount of time in our time together today for us to discuss and unmute and talk and also get into chat and share all of those kinds of things. The second reason that we really wanted to do these was to provide a high-level synthesis of the things that we're seeing from where we sit in watching this unfold at the National Institute, and offer some things for folks to consider as you're trying to move forward from what we're seeing in that space. So basically what we're going to do in terms of time is take about 10-15 minutes of content that does some of that high-level synthesis, and then the rest of the time is for us to process and discuss and move into all of that. In case you're wondering, yes, this will be recorded and shared on the website. The slides will be shared, and anything that I talk about, there's links embedded in the slides, so you can click it if you want. And if you want to keep the conversation going offline, we're using the hashtag NILOA webinar on Twitter. And but you can also use assessment music as a hashtag, but I will tell you more about that in a minute. The rest of our series, which we just sent an email out about it today, so we're doing the 2 community check-ins, but then there's 4 others where we're trying to take some of the information we have and turn it into meaningful resources to help people think about and move forward into the summer and fall work if we're in a situation where this is our new normal. And also, I think at some point we're ready to think about something else. We need something else to get on our minds. And so we're going to try to do that in a meaningful manner. So thank you for being with us as we try this out and see how it goes. I do want to say, though, just to begin, feel free to share something about yourself in the chat, or let's just get out of the way the fact that, like, there's going to be a toddler that comes in and wants to say hi, or an animal of some kind, it's your pet, or whatever that might be. So please feel free to take a minute so that we can sort of remember our communication connections to other people. And oh, yay, napping toddler. There was a baby on a call earlier I had today, and they kept cooing, and it was like the most soothing background noise. The cooing is a win. But so feel free to do something on those lines. We also capped today's webinar to help with bandwidth issues so that we make sure that we don't lose anybody. Nice. All right, while you are sharing, I want to share with you, oh my gosh, 3 teenagers, whew. Something that we're starting just for fun, which is hashtag assessment music. We've seen a lot of things come around that are meditate and take some time to yourself. I am a strong believer in the power of a good tune to change your mood and mindset around. So I offer you 4 different songs in case you need them. These are no lyrics, so if you want to just have music on while you're working on something in the background, I offer you 4 different options. One is if you need to go, you know, this is not what I thought the semester would be, and I want to drink a glass of wine and mourn the loss of what I thought it would be, I offer you the Kronos Quartet, string quartet number 4 by Voss. It's the meditation. It's totally awesome. I love that there's a foster boxer snoring away. If you need to remember that there is a place beyond this that is full of hope and that we can keep moving forward as a community to handle all of this, I offer you Host, the planet, specifically Jupiter, because it's the bringer of joy. And if you need a recommendation point to start at 3 minutes and 6 seconds in. Just saying. The other one, though, if you need to remember that, you know, the world's on fire, but out of all fire comes good rebirth and things of that nature, Stravinsky's Firebird Suite, the finale, is the one that I would point to. And if you just need a song to breathe while you're doing emails and all of that, I offer you Yo-Yo Ma. That should be Bach, Cello Concerto. Apologies for my inability to spell. All of these links are hyperlinked in here, so when we send these slides out after, you can click through and listen to any of these. I put the YouTube links in. But share your own as a way to sort of keep ourselves connected and moving, because, you know, a good tune can help us keep things around and in positive times of strife. So we offer something a little bit fun. Let me move into the 3 points that I want to make today. So I mentioned that in these community webinars, we're only going to do a little bit of time focused on content. The rest of the time, we're going to do discussion. So I have 3 points that I want to offer up for the group to consider. And but you're welcome to talk about anything that you want. You don't have to talk about these points. But as we look across what's going on at a high level, I think it's really important to remember that what we're doing right now is not a test of online education. And that's important because there are some framing that, like, well, we'll see if online education really works or it's for everyone. And we need to remember that what we're doing is we are in a triage situation of survival, which is entailing an emergency move to distance or remote instruction. Online education involves thinking intentionally about instructional design, preparing assignments and learner environments in ways that are supportive for everyone there. And if you guys aren't following this chat, it's amazing. And these music recommendations are everything. But really honing in on the fact that if we can be mindful in how we talk about what this is and isn't to our faculty, to our staff. Nobody asked to be here. Nobody asked for this situation, but here we are. And there isn't time to go into the design that we need. So we're doing the best that we can with the time that we have in that space. And we do have an opportunity to remember that we are still in crisis mode, and that's okay. We're going to be in crisis mode for a while, that we are definitely experiencing information overload. So if you think about the communication you may need to send out for something, instead of another email, think about a video message, or what's a way that you can send something to create that humanity touch, but also sort of help people process just the vast amount of updates. I don't know about you, but I've been able to find out just how many people had my email and listservs, because I now know what every company I have ever talked to is doing on COVID-19. So that was great for me to like clear it out, but just helpful to remember that everyone is going through that same sort of situation. The other is that while this is unique and unprecedented, we can learn from other situations that are unfolding or have unfolded before with displaced students, such as Hurricane Katrina. There's a nice diverse education article that was on this point, but we have had to switch very quickly to remote education before. So this is not some incredibly unique test case environment in which we can do. However, it is important to remember that what we are dealing with now, we have not dealt with before, which leads me to point 2. So point 1, this is not our test of online education. Be careful how we talk about it. But point 2 is compassion, not compliance, should drive decisions at this point in time. Quick note, I am not a person who normally writes out what I'm going to say on a slide, but I have for the next several, because I think I don't know about your sort of mental capacities right now to retain information, but mine are spotty at best with everything that's going on and homeschooling and all of the other situations in there. But so I have all the stuff that I will say you don't have to take notes. Remember, I've put all of it into these slides. And this is very important, I think, for us to consider, which is, if we are losing our students to stress because of compliance decisions we made, we are doing it wrong in this space. And I know that we are in uncharted territory, but I want to posit that we should not be waiting for guidance on what to do. And pass-fail is something that I'm going to talk about in a minute, because that's been a place that we're seeing a lot of different discussion on. What we can do is actually drive the guidance needed based on the decisions that we're making and what's happening in the best interests of our students. If we are constantly just looking to see where we are on what someone has decided, we are shifting. It's a moving target. These things are changing every day. If we are making decisions for what is right by our students and we can justify why we made those decisions, we can align to whatever comes out on the other side. So we should be guiding our decisions with compassion and not living solely in a compliance mentality in that space. So for instance, pass-fail has been like a, what do we do? And what about the SAP and all of these types of things? And because it was such a large area, it was actually included in the stimulus package that people are voting on. And it's a larger conversation, one that I think we have to be careful to develop the difference between a philosophical conversation that's unfolding about the role of teaching and education and all of that, and responses to our students. But if you want to see what others are doing, I've included a hyperlink to a Google Doc that keeps track of institutions as they make decisions on this area. There's also a hashtag #PassFailNation that you can track the larger conversation that's unfolding. But the idea behind all of this and where people are falling is do no harm to students. And thank you, Bob, for putting in the article in there related to this. So there will be accreditor decisions that come out of this, but I think, again, Hurricane Katrina is a nice point to think back to, where institutions got dinged at some point coming off of it and had solid arguments about why they made the decisions they did for students to be able to address that and get undinged. I don't know what the verb is for turning it around. So at this point in time, we can deal on the other side with the compliance reporting functions. We can justify alignment on the other side. This is not the time for doing that for our students. So I don't mean to harp on it, but I harp on it because it's important, which is connected to point 3. So point 1, this is not a test of online education. Point 2, compliance should be driving, or compassion should be driving this, not compliance. And point 3 is we really need to listen to our students in this place. And this connects larger to the compassion point. Learning is compromised already from our student perspective. Any data that we collect from this semester, it's sort of asterisks all the way down. Everyone is. This is an entirely also noise-filled, compromised data situation for all of us. So if we're focusing on learning and that data collection, we're going to be fine in some of these areas. And this is a place too where you can think about your organizational partners who should be advocating on your behalf for the decisions that you make, to regional creditors, to others. I would again remind you that regional creditors talk about how they are member-driven organizations. So if we need to be pushing things up to them, then that's a role that we can play. Thinking about listening to our students, we're going to need different types of assignments and demonstrations, and we also need to have an option of not just a pass-fail, but that it might be an incomplete. For some of our students who are in clinicals, moving through apprenticeship situations, internships that just got stopped, there are some innovative ways that is being unfolded and addressed, and we're happy to talk about that. But it also just might be an incomplete for those areas, and that's an option that we can think about as well. Being flexible on deadlines is something that is coming up a lot. Students are concerned about a lot of things. Their grades, completing a class, if they're even gonna get through something. Those that are graduating have a whole different area of concerns in this space, and helping them think about what really matters from the course, those learning outcomes that matter, can help us think about where we need to focus in on that. And I agree that focusing on learning does not mean we disregard assessment. It means assessment plays a very pivotal role in that teaching and learning connection point there. I would also just echo again that this is not about learning online. When we think about the data that we are collecting of students and learning in this area, It's about learning in a global pandemic crisis. So the data that you will get from students is how well are they able to learn and demonstrate learning, dealing with the plethora of things that are going on in their lives at this time. This is also a great opportunity to think about involving students and asking them how they want to be assessed or how they can be assessed. What is their bandwidth now? Well, that's a bad word because it's internet related. What is their capacity at this point to really be able to engage, and what can they or can't they do if they are taking care of families, homeschooling, if you just lost your job, if you don't have internet access, which we'll talk about in a moment. But so thinking about how can we involve students as co-designers of solutions in this space when they are just as freaked out and stressed as we all are. So if you need some resources on that space, I'm not gonna super overwhelm you, but I can't help but put a slide on assessment in here. There's a really nice piece that's hyperlinked in here on arguments to consider before jumping straight into proctored online exams. As like, oh, if we're not doing it this way, we're just gonna move to proctored online exams, and what other options there might be for folks. We can also consider how to capture the learning that's already happened, right? Our semesters were underway, learning has been unfolding, people have been doing stuff. We have some good information before sort of everything caught fire that we can think about in this space. It's also a really nice opportunity to think about the role and the power of a reflective assignments as a place for students to process, for us to learn, and also to really be focusing on that what are we learning and how do you know elements in our assessment conversation. So this is a great opportunity for reflective assignments. It's also, as assessment professionals, a great opportunity to return with our faculty to assessment basics by having conversations like, in this course, what is the most important thing your students need to learn? What do they need to know to be able to progress coming out of that? And then what would a well-designed, aligned assignment with that look like or entail? And helping them think through those fundamentals of it's not all this other stuff, it's those things that that assessment conversation is a really nice place to get into and think about. Last couple points as relates to assessment is just, again, we just need to accept that the data from this semester is going to be full of noise, and think about how much learning can really happen and in the larger environment of all the things that are going and the attention span and just mental capacity that people have to focus in on do this. This is not a good point to really be looking at solid, trustworthy longitudinal data on students and their learning. So that's okay. We're all in it together. So with that in mind, we can think we're hearing a lot from programs that they want to shift the focus of program assessment to just be broadly whether students are making progress on the most important learning outcomes for that program. So, you know, that can be part of that thinking about how much have you learned so far, where are you on this? And also for our assessment folk, it's going to be okay to postpone program reports because just like the data we're going to get from our students on learning is going to be full of noise, anything your faculty give you from this semester is equally going to be full of noise because of all the situations that are going on related to this. So we can embrace that and justify it, and I think that that's fine. I do want to point to thinking about internet. So since this is all switched to remote learning, there are a lot of equity issues related to this for our students and our faculty. Not all faculty, especially adjunct faculty, can have access to the same types of things. There's a really nice article that if you click it in the slides, it's linked there, that talks about lower bandwidth type things, not video classes, but thinking about how to use a collaborative Google Doc for students. Our students do not have unlimited data plans. They do not have access to internet. Not all of them have the opportunity to drive to a parking lot or feel comfortable doing that in a shelter-in-place situation and environment that they might be in. So there are some institutions that are providing hot lots or parking lots where they're pumping out Wi-Fi, but not all students have that opportunity. And for some students that might involve taking a bus and they might not want to be around people at that time. To get there, you might not have a laptop to use for it. There's a lot of different levels of concern. So I think that's a nice movement, but it's an important additional area is to explore providers in your area who are responding with free access to broadband and Wi-Fi. And that I think is a helpful way to provide support for your students and thinking about it in a more responsive manner in that space. So don't assume the students are able to do this at the level that you can. Plan for the lower bandwidth options, but also don't assume your faculty can do it. You have a lot of adjuncts at times. They have a lot of different understandings at home, and think about lower bandwidth options. And I think that's a great article to help go through it. Last couple resources before we just open this up to general discussion that we kept hearing about throughout the week was what's going on with student affairs and what are resources for that? I want to point to a couple opportunities that are coming up. NASPA has decided to create participations free and open to everyone. They're going to stream and record and share. There's education sessions which look at student supports in online, and it's really nice. You can go to their website and see the types of things that are unfolding there. Student affairs assessment leaders and the Council for the Advancement of Standards are all making resources available in different ways. So keeping them informed of your needs and what kind of things you're looking for can be very useful. But if you're looking for student affairs stuff, people are moving and they're doing it. Another really cool resource, if you're not sure what to do, but faculty are asking you questions, is there's a great group in Canada that is pulled together from folks from the US, Europe, and Canada that are all been like online educators. And they've opened up a Ask an Expert about teaching online. It's any question that you want to ask them about online teaching, assessment, whatever it might be. And they've gotten a group of people together who are responding to these emails and will turn it around within 2 business days, which is pretty cool to think about. So if you're just like, I just need a different sort of option, then you can check that out there to see what people are doing. Also, there's compilations of resources. So if you guys want to see, and I will send these slides out to everyone that's on this right as soon as we're done. So you've got all these links that are in here. The National Conference of States Legislatures is keeping an ongoing list of what higher ed decisions are going on related to this. NILOA is maintaining, you can get it from our landing page of our website, a sort of a more tailored Google Doc of resources. ALHE has a Slack channel that they've opened with different special interest groups so that you can figure out, talk with other people who are doing some things, and then a really great list that's been put together that people are finding helpful because it's a checklist, so you can just like go through some steps which people need right now, is Quality Matters put together an emergency remote instruction checklist, and that has really been resonating with folks. And there is some assessment elements of that are helpful to take a look at. So I'm going to get us off of the slides so we can see each other. And you guys have been chatting up a ton, which I adore. And feel free to unmute yourself and talk. I'm going to catch up in the chat. Or keep chatting, and then if it's like, oh, this is really cool, we'll ask you to unmute if you don't mind. But if you're like, I'm an introvert right now and this is my special time, you don't have to talk. It's okay. Okay. So, how you guys feeling?
Natasha, this is Jody Fisler from Virginia.
Hey.
Hey, or hi everyone, not just Natasha. But one of the things that I've been seeing in a lot of the listserv postings and whatnot is it seems like when we're talking about whether or not assessment should continue this year, is that there are 2 different things that people are talking about. The assessment that happens in the classroom, student learning assessment, absolutely, it's part of teaching, needs to happen. The other thing that I think people are concerned about is the program level assessment or the institution level assessment. And since I'm at a state agency, that's the part that I think people are more concerned about. What are going to be the compliance or regulatory implications of this kind of thing? And of course, from my perspective, it's like you all focus on what you need to focus on. I'm not worried about that from the state level. We'll figure this out when we get back to it. But it's interesting to me how that really doesn't seem to be specified in a lot of these exchanges, which kind of assessment we're talking about.
Definitely. And I think, Jody, your point though, that you're like, we'll figure that out later. A lot of people are feeling And I understand this because psychologically in a time of crisis, you're going to control the things you can, and you're going to look for guidance in spaces that happen. So it's also like a very understandable response. Are looking to say, well, we can't do these kinds of things because we'll be out of line with compliance. And I think it is crossing over into different types of assessment that they're thinking about in that area. But welcome other people's thoughts or feelings or experience with this, please.
This is Susan Kahn. My experience is that I'm spending too much time reading about the pandemic and not as much time as I would like on getting my work done. Fortunately, I'm not teaching this semester, thank God, but I do have a lot of work to do, and any ideas about staying focused with all of the news would be welcome.
Any thoughts for Susan on how to stay focused and sort of limit? One of the things that I've been hearing, I'll offer one up, as people are thinking, especially in a work remote situation, is to limit your intake time to a particular time of the day for when you will go and look at news. So you'll be like, okay, at noon, I'll figure out what's been going on. Now, granted, if you pick something like noon and the news are not something you want to hear, how well can you turn back around in your head? But Linda Susky also did a blog on some ideas of working from home and getting routines and things of that nature. I've seen some folks that do happy hours with each other and talk about news at that time. I don't recommend the starting at like 1 p.m. happy hour, but you know, you do you. This is a crisis. So, but other thoughts that people have from folks to help with this?
Yeah, I struggle with the same thing. And what I've been trying to do is, the first thing I'm doing is giving myself grace and realizing I'm not going to be able to accomplish everything I would normally have done. You know, I'm fortunate. It's just my wife. We don't have pets. We don't have kids. But I still have low-level anxiety about what this is going to mean. I've got a chronic health condition, so there's some personal things I'm concerned about as well. And so I'm trying to manage all that. But what I've done from the news perspective is I want to keep up on what the information is and how to protect myself and my community. I'm trying to cut down on the negative stuff. And so, not to name any names, but there's some people I'll pay more attention to in the news than others, because I know that the information is going to be more useful and not really pull me down further into stress or anxiety. It's not perfect, and I realize I'm not going to be able to accomplish everything that I would normally do, but like you said, it's a different point in time, and so we have to do the best we can.
This is Lori from Pacific Northwest University of Health Sciences, and my area of specialty, I work in institutional effectiveness, but my area of specialty is in performance improvement. And we've had a lot of people at our university too that have been expressing, you know, that they're just really, you know, stressed and having a hard time concentrating, and all the things that we're talking about here. And some of the things that I've been telling them, and we were actually just having a conversation about, we should open this up to a big webinar for our whole university, is to just talk about, you know, what are some of the things that we can do to help us. And for my advice to most of the people that I've been talking with so far is, you know, start by making a list of all of the things that you were working on before this pandemic became, you know, it started impacting you. And then, you know, also make a list of all of the things that you're now having to grapple with as a result of this. And then try to look at all of this work and realize that obviously what we have to do right now for our students and staff and faculty to support them in this time of crisis is obviously the most important stuff. There's a lot of other stuff that we really have kind of unconsciously put on the back burner. And if you just really shift those things for real on a piece of paper, on a computer screen, whatever, however you want to do that, that helps us to kind of realize that we can alleviate some of that stress. These things are not important enough for us to need to focus on them right now. Let's let that go. and focus on only the things right now that are the most important. And just being able to do that sometimes will help alleviate a little bit of your stress and also help you to stay focused on what you need to focus on. Those are my thoughts.
This is Sherry, and I'm with Weave. And we actually work remotely anyway, but we came to the realization last week that like working remotely is so normal for us that we hadn't thought about it, how it was impacting our colleagues. So we did do a little video of here's our work from home tips for you guys. So that was something kind of fun for us. But another thing that we've done is we did realize we needed another outlet that was more social for us. So we started having lunch together on Friday in a Slack space, just like this. And so everybody brings their lunch, and we're actually scattered across like 4 time zones plus other countries. So we just picked a time and everybody can bring their lunch or just come and socialize for that half hour. And some of the people are like, well, it's weird like eating in front of you on my camera. And I'm like, it's only weird the first time. It's only weird because we're not used to it, but it wouldn't be weird to meet in the lunchroom and eat together. So why is it weird to sit across from each other and have lunch and chat? So we started doing that, and it was well attended by everybody, and there was no business that took place. It was all social and catching up and casual. So that's something that we did. We just started last week, and I think we're going to continue because it went really well.
Hi, I'm Patty. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and I see a lot of people in my neighborhood out walking. And I think one of the, if there are any silver linings to this, horrendous crisis, is that I think there are 2. One is that I think people are going to maybe develop some better exercise habits, and the other is I think maybe we're going to develop some better conservation habits. But I am wondering, and Natasha, I hate to put anything more on you, except that I think NILOA may be well positioned to facilitate something like this, is if we could have some sort of clearinghouse for helping each other. I am, and I probably shouldn't admit this in a nationally broadcast forum, but I am not overwhelmed with work at the moment because I had 2 major projects that got canceled because of this. I was administering the SESI at my institution, and that ain't happening. And we've also called a moratorium on some of our course embedded learning outcomes assessment. And I take the points that were made in the chat about the value of collecting assessment data, but we felt that our faculty just needed to be released from that reporting obligation with everything else that they had on their plates. So 2 big administrative functions that I would normally be performing this semester, I'm not. And I would love to be able to help out colleagues with some of their workload if we could figure out a way to make that happen.
Yeah, I love that idea. We can put that to the NILOA team and see what we can come up with to find a way to maybe have like a look into help board or something where people can post like, I need help with this kind of project or something, and somebody can pick it up to do it. So I think there's some ways that we can definitely make that work. That's a great idea. Thank you so much.
My name is Sarah Winger. I'm from Salisbury University in Maryland, although I'm in Delaware right now at home. And one of the things that I've tried to do is kind of pivot my position a bit. I'm the assessment coordinator, so I would also be doing assessments and helping faculty with their program evaluations and academic program reviews. Those are all kind of not that important right now. So I've been kind of trying to refocus and, like Natasha had said, helping faculty get resources, find resources, or put together resources for them to really think about the fundamentals of teaching and why are you teaching that, and how will you assess it later, or how will your assessment be different because it's online, and how can we mitigate like not having a face-to-face exam period that's proffered. Things like that. That might be something that people can coordinate with their instructional design units, or Centers for Teaching and Learning, if those people do that, if you can help them with those kinds of things, that's one thing that I was hoping that I could help with. So.
Natasha, Suzanne Carbonero from APHIS. I'm a little late joining in. We've been, talking to various partners throughout this unfortunate circumstance that we're all in. And something that I've been doing is really supporting partners with my other expertise. I taught at the university level for 27 years, and I have a communication background, and I'm supporting coming in as a guest speaker for some of our partners right now. I have a social media background. I'm providing tips to various folks that need that. I think we can delve into our own expertise. We're all lifelong learners. We've come to assessment probably various different ways, and we have our own academic background and our own prior experiences to coming to this space. I think this is an opportunity for us to share our backgrounds, our teaching and learning. I have some resources that I'm sharing with one of our partners who's going to change his sociology class to be more social media driven as a community kind of and civic engagement opportunity. They were supposed to go do a community project as a group. They can't do that. So now they can contribute through a social media kind of campaign or support to support these local businesses, community outreach, whatnot. And it's a high impact practice, right? And so, I think we can all support in our own way, provide expertise, be a guest Zoomer into a classroom, share resources with others because we are all experts in our field, in many fields, and I think that this is a real opportunity for us to really share.
No, thank you, Susan. I love that point. And this actually rings with something that I had heard earlier in a conversation around civic engagement as well, where because someone had been really into, there's an assessment professional of who we have all of these backgrounds, to your point, that come from, there's no career path that's like very clearly related to this, but who was really into editing wiki pages, who ended up helping a faculty member change their assignment around community engagement to be editing wiki pages and creating Wikipedia pages for groups that were unable to do that and getting into it in that way. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities for really creative thinking. In this space, it's also just really hard when people are so stretched thin to be creative and that stress. And so if you're having those creative things or you've got wonderful ideas, this is definitely, I think, the time to share with folks. And so yes, +1 to all of that.
This is Pat Hutchings. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I work with NILOA, and I wanted to just sort of build on these last few comments about looking to be helpful to others, which is wonderful. I heard about an interesting model at the University of Kansas recently, and I thought I'd mention it. Through the teaching center, they've worked out a mentoring program where faculty who have some kind of expertise that is relevant and useful to others have been assigned as mentors to a particular department or a particular kind of course. I'm not exactly sure how they organize the space, but the notion of a sort of organized mentoring system on the campus struck me. Apparently it's working very nicely, and the faculty who are doing the mentoring are having a wonderful experience, as are the people who are being helped, certainly. I don't know if there's any way to do that at a larger scale, but it just, sort of resonates with the spirit of a lot of comments that have recently been made here.
Hi everyone, this is Ann Weiss. On the 12th of March, the day after the WHO declared this a global pandemic, I started my brand new job at Purdue University. And they have not had someone who has focused on institutionalizing assessment at Purdue University, arguably longer than 3 months at a time. So I'm the first person who's here for the long haul to strengthen and better and inform and improve their assessment practices. I just want to take a minute to vent. This has been extremely difficult for me. As you know, when you have the right title and the right job and the right credentials, you can get a lot done on a campus to further institutionalize assessment. But I can't build relationships right now. I can't even barely meet with people, and it's just frustrating when technology gets in the way and you're having that important first meeting with someone and giving them a first impression, and you can't even control your connectability and your bandwidth and all these other things. So I'm looking for some sympathy. I'm looking for a lot of advice. I think I know what the job is. I've been doing assessment and I've been working to institutionalize this for the past 8 years in a variety of fashions, previously in the niche of civic and community engagement with IUPUI and other institutions in Indiana. But anyways, you know, if there's a chance you want to reach out to me and give any advice, any insights, I've heard some things I've thought about doing, like if there's a chance that someone wants to tune into a random webinar with a brand new staff member who can help them with assessment, I've written that down. But yeah, I'm here for the community check-in because I need my community right now desperately, since I don't really feel I have one at Purdue. I will say Purdue's handling this wonderfully. They really are centered on the student experience right now. So I'm not worried about Purdue. They have the right mentality that Natasha's already hit on. But as the assessment person, I'm really struggling. So thanks for listening.
And thank you so much for sharing, and congrats on your new position. And I think it's wonderful, and I'm so happy that you were there to share your expertise and be a part of it. I'm sorry that the timing happened in such a way that you weren't able to get into that community, but welcome to this community, and we are delighted to have you. And that super sucks. March 12th was my birthday. And we were like, gonna go out to dinner, and like everything shut down. And I was like, we have no food. So I feel you. I think Pat Hutchings' birthday is also March 12th. So we have birthday buddies there. But so it was you know, it's an interesting month. But please, welcome to the group. Feel free to reach out to any of us. And it actually makes me think about if there's a role that we can play in not just connecting people in Workboard, but connecting people in community, to just sort of say, you know, I mean, maybe not necessarily mentoring, but if there's other people that
I was wondering, like, I've been reaching out, you know, I've done the Ollie webinar, and they've done a Slack channel. I'm new to Slack. And now I'm doing this. So I'm finding when I can, but yeah, if there's interest in someone meeting with me, because I'm at an R1, a very typical R1 that is the land grant institution of our state. So if there's an interest in that kind of group forming to help me further appreciate the context, you know, of assessment at a large residential but still R1 campus, that's something I am interested in a niche of this assessment community. So.
Anybody else need to, you know, get some stuff off their chests?
Hi, this is Jordan Trachtenberg from Rose-Hulman. Hi, Anne. Just letting you know, I'm happy to talk with you offline. Wanted to share some things that I learned from faculty today in working with our Commission for Assessment of Student Outcomes. We have a group of 1 faculty rep from each department, 2 reps from Student Affairs, and a student representative. And we had our weekly meeting today, and I got some feedback from them about what would be best in terms of understanding what students are going through. And it seems like they were suggesting to have some kind of holistic survey close to the end of the quarter to get ideas on how to improve the online learning experience for the future. And that would minimize any potential for faculty to think that this was punitive or something that they had to change before the end of the quarter, and to have it completely separate from course evaluations so that it wasn't considered as part of their promotion and tenure considerations. And I thought that was a really valuable suggestion to share. And specifically for our group of students, we're an undergraduate STEM institution, and so they would like for our office, assessment and institutional research, to help with a call for potential research questions to maybe crowdsource faculty efforts who want to conduct research on online learning in their classrooms, to help guide research questions, potentially around, innovations in online teaching of labs, or the difference between synchronous and asynchronous teaching for directed research for undergraduates. And so they would like us to help them kind of think about those opportunities and ways that we can get innovations in the classroom more broadly publicized externally.
Hi, this is Kimberly Green at Washington State University. I appreciate everybody's thoughts and perspectives. One of the things we've been talking about internally is how do we message to people about spring assessment activities and what they should be prioritizing, where a good return on their time is going to be recognizing. But there's, the top priority is really delivering courses, instruction, supporting students and student learning. We've recognized that we do have some professionally accredited programs who are probably going to be able to and want to just continue with their regular assessment activities, and how to help them, it will have an asterisk, yes. So how to, allow them to do that. But there's other programs that, maybe have some other options. And so we are talking about, what we would want to encourage as a good use of time, and the idea that there's some kind of formative reflection that faculty can do, with some kind of student learning focus. What can you learn this semester about student learning? And Natasha, I really appreciated, in the context of pandemic, what do you learn about student learning? And then, with the idea that it's potentially formative, it might be qualitative, and that maybe maybe how you use it is in your department as you're designing courses in the fall, because potentially there's some gaps. We're thinking about programs who course instructors who moved online for the first time. Maybe they just dropped the oral presentation assignment and they dropped a lot of the skills about the oral communication, but they did the written communication skills. Or, as people were making decisions about what assignments to continue, what to prioritize, what learning outcomes they felt they were able to advance, and where they are aware that there's gaps that students might need additional support or practice in the fall. So that's a lot of assessment. I mean, we can imagine faculty saying, we don't have time to do program assessment because we're so busy in these important conversations. And so how to maybe recognize, well, that is program assessment, what you're doing, and how to, both in our communication and in our annual reports, how to recognize that less formal, potentially more qualitative kind of assessment. So, and we did get lucky. A little piece of good news, a little small win in all this, is we had just gone through the process of delaying our annual reports until next January. So we don't have to message that out, and people are very appreciative. But I'd be interested in hearing what other people are doing about communicating about kind of alternative assessment or more formative assessment. Thank you.
Well, I'll jump in while people are thinking how to respond to Kim's great questions. I do agree that I think a lot of this will be more qualitative and alternative, and that actually is a great way to signal a sign of caring to our students about really trying to listen and understand and be responsive and adaptive. I know for our institution, we have been told all summer classes will be also done remote and that it might even go into the fall. But for now, we at least know that all of our summer term will also be done that way. And so if we're thinking about this, yes, we need to get through our current triage situation. But then as we start to get to the end, how can we use some of these question forms or messaging to help prepare us and to move into thinking about a longer term time in which we're operating in this way. And also, happy anniversary, Sherry. That's exciting, 26 years.
Hi, this is Joel Bloom from Hunter College in the CUNY system. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, just one point I want to make is there's been talk about whether we should do teaching evaluations this term, and there's been talk about formative versus summative assessment. I just wanted to mention, some of you might not want to think about it, but there's a good chance we might be doing it this way in the fall as well, only we'll actually have time to plan and develop real online courses. So course evaluations could be very useful as a formative assessment, not to evaluate the instructor, but to find out what's working from the student's perspective and what's not working from the student's perspective. The only other point I wanted to make just now is I've been searching and searching for information on how we should be assessing differently in online courses. And there's some good tools, including from NILOA, but not very many of them. Most of the stuff that I've seen that says it's links to tips on assessing online is really tips on teaching online. So I'm wondering, is anybody else other than me trying to compile this stuff? I saw your thumbs up, Sarah. All right, I'm gonna mute now.
I just wanted to say I'm running into the same issues. I have some books from Amazon on the way, but everything's delayed. I'm hoping they'll have some stuff, but even they're sort of out of date and were when online teaching was early. I don't think things have changed that much. There are new technologies, and that's one of the things that will be in the newer books. But honestly, it just, like we said, comes back to the fundamentals of what are you trying to have the students learn and be able to do and know or behave? What are you trying to assess? What are the important things? And so I like the ones that really address the pedagogy and are aligned with the pedagogy, and the ones that are just for online that don't think about the pedagogy as much, it's not necessarily going to be as useful. So that's the two kinds of things that I've been finding, aside from just ones that are just about teaching online instead of assessing online.
No, great question. So I think I have two different ways of answering this. One is going to feel like a very philosophical, it depends, the future is yours to develop answer, and I apologize for that in advance. But I think this is something that I would love to come back to next week in our next community check-in and have some longer discussion time on. So one is that, yes, I think there are some places, there's online institutions who've been doing this, and especially in the competency-based education realm, there's a lot of cool examples on really thinking differently about assignments and what that looks like there. But I would also say with where we are now, it's the Wild West in a lot of ways of what this is. So this is a great opportunity to develop what those new timely assessments can look like for us, for our students, and for what we're trying to do. And it's a great opportunity as well to have those conversations of what matters most to us and what type of demonstrations really matter. And I say that because we saw a lot of people going, how do I take my research paper assignment and turn it into an online assignment? in a meaningful way when they're going, really, I want people to have persuasive argumentation skills. And there's different ways in which they can do that. And they could respond to a journal article or get into an argument, email conversation with an author and share that with me and make it work. So I think we can, as assessment professionals, we can really try to rethink what counts as evidence for these things. What are those different types of assignments? But there are good places to start. But I think some of the things that we really want to see, we're going to be the ones to develop, which is exciting, overwhelming, but you know, that's where we are these days. I do want to be mindful of our time, and I want to say thank you so much, everybody. We're going to keep the chat so we can go through and make sure that we're being responsive to what people are talking about. I want to share one last slide with you guys before we part ways. There is a group of students who got together and did an orchestra piece remotely, each in their own rooms, and put it together in a compilation video. And so if they can figure out how to do it, we can figure out how to do it. And I think we've got a lot of smart people that care a lot about their work. So thank you so much for joining us for our first check-in and for sharing and being so honest and open. And we look forward to seeing you next week or whenever you can join us. So thank you. Take care, everybody. Wash your hands. Stay at home. Okay. Bye.